Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and I want to talk to you about the weapon export pause that's happening right now and how it's a sign of SHTF to come. This kind of stuff has happened before, and right afterward we saw some very egregious events in American history. So that's why we need to be paying attention to what's happening right this second. Reported on October 27th, the U.S. paused issuing export licenses for civilian firearms and ammunition for up to 90 days. And that includes shotguns, optics, and other components. And nothing like this has ever happened before on this broad of a scale. But it's a sign of the times in many ways. And people are speculating that some of this could be a way to punish the firearms industry and prevent them from earning profits, which then hurts their ability to arm the American populace. But I think there's a little bit more to it at this point in time, especially based on what's happening in the world right now and what has happened in the past. And before I get any further into this, I do want to mention that Midway USA is the biggest supporter of the channel. And of course, thanks to them, I can get out here in the middle of a snowstorm and still get some shooting in and try to keep up with some skills with everything that's happening in the world right now. I find to be prioritizing some of that, if you want to say. So, look, in the facts sheet from the Bureau of Industry and Security, they specifically said there that the department may take additional steps to further U.S. national security and foreign policy interests. And that's in regards to this 90-day pause on export licenses being given out. Now, just so you're all aware, this isn't a 90-day pause on all exports. It just means that no new licenses are going to be issued. So any manufacturer that had a pre-existing license is still going to be able to continue to fulfill their contract. So this isn't as crazy as what it might have sounded like in the beginning, but it's still something worth paying attention to because, like I said, this hasn't happened before. And we know that with all the conflict going on in the world, that there's a lot of reasons why the U.S. might feel like they need to hold on to some of their firearms and ammunition. And if you look at countries like Kazakhstan, back in 2022, they actually halted their arms exports for a year because of what was happening in Ukraine. So if other countries are starting to do the same things, we should apply that to what we're seeing here and understand that there's probably more to it than just face value anti-gun legislation and everything else related to what these people try to do via the back door on a regular basis. But regardless of that, we also have recently ordered an immediate halt to some AI chip exports to China specifically. And that was reported on October 25th. So it's not just the firearms and ammunition and the other components like optics and everything else. We're also talking about AI chips, right? And these restrictions will begin on November 16th. And the aim specifically there is to stop China, Iran, and Russia from gaining access to AI-capable chips. Well, has this happened before too? Actually, yes. So back in 2022, the U.S. actually halted some exports of semiconductors to China. And then this year in 2023, both the Netherlands and Japan jumped on board to the same exact export bans. And all of this is happening right now. And strangely enough, just so you're aware, all of this happened right before the last World War II. And when I said two, I meant TOO. Like this all happened back then as well. What do I mean? Well, on August 31st, 1935, Congress passed the Neutrality Act, okay, which was the first of the Neutrality Act before it was expanded. And what that did was it prohibited the export of arms, ammunition, and implements of war. And I don't know about you, but if you don't think AI chips or semiconductors are implements of war, then you're probably not paying attention to the way technology works these days, right? So I definitely find those things to be implements of war. And then obviously we had the firearms and ammunition. So all those things are being paused and halted from export. And wow, it's almost like this is exactly what happened right before World War II. And in fact, the reason that the first Neutrality Act was actually put out was because Congress and the U.S. at the time was actually very concerned about what was happening around the world and expected to see global conflict, all right? Now, all those things were prohibited from export from the U.S. to foreign nations that were either at war, and it also required arms manufacturers in the U.S. to apply for export licenses, which are the exact things that are being paused right now for people to gain access to, all right? And then they also back then warned U.S. citizens traveling in war zones to be advised that they did so at their own risk, which is also what's happening right now when it comes to our embassies and when it comes to American nationals in foreign countries. So all this has happened before. This weapon export pause is a sign of SHTF to come. What are you doing to get ready for it? These are questions you have to ask yourself. Let me know in the comments below if you think these things are all related to the idea of escalation in the sense of global conflict and our entrance into the war officially here at some point in time in the near future, or if you think it's all just coincidental and it's one way of the government getting through the Second Amendment by hurting the profits of the firearms industry, and then the semiconductor and AI chip thing is just to not have as much competition on the private market in the sense of, corporatism. These are all considerations we have to make. But look, it's cold. I'm in the middle of a snowstorm, and I wanted to bring this information to you because obviously we know what's coming next.